You're most likely 16 to 25 years of age, and you have the entire world at your fingertips, just like me. You could travel the world, you could meet new people, you could have unforgettable experiences, but instead of doing that, all of this precious, precious time that you've used up so far has been spent on your phone. The average person spends around 6 hours and 40 minutes a day looking at their phone. If you times that by 365, you get just over 100 days out of the year that you spend looking at a screen. Or if you want a percentage, that's 42% of the time that you spend awake in a year. Your future could be so bright. I mean, you fantasize about it in bed every single night, don't kid me here. The flashy cars, huge mansions, the beautiful partner, whatever it may be in your personal case. If you carry on down this path, you're never going to achieve it. Now, it is possible to put your phone down permanently. I haven't seen this method anywhere though, surprisingly. All of these self-help gurus just tend to say, put timers on your apps, just turn your phone off, and it never works because it's stupid advice. The real method, this 3-step method that I'm going to show you, is stupidly easy, and it is purely scientific. We don't know that much about the brain in all actuality, but we do know enough about it to know exactly why we're glued to our phones scrolling away every single day. So to change this bad habit, we first need to understand exactly what's happening up there. Every time we're scrolling on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever it may be, we get new stimuli every half a second, let's say. That new stimuli releases something called dopamine, which, for lack of better words, is the chemical that makes us feel good. Our brain is wired in a way to make us seek out pleasure. It's the reason every single addiction on the planet works. I mean, bringing a cigarette to the mouth for a smoker releases dopamine. Eating a bar of chocolates releases dopamine. Doing cocaine releases dopamine. All on different levels, I'm sure I don't need to tell you that. In fact, doing cocaine releases about 8 times more dopamine than eating a bar of chocolate, just for reference. Now, doom scrolling is nowhere near as potent as doing cocaine, but that's not where the issue arrives. It's the availability of the stimulus. You're not going to be sat there doing a line of coke every second for 5 hours, or at least I hope not, for your health and your bank accounts. Doom scrolling is a worse addiction than any drug on the planet, and to explain that in the nerdiest way physically possible, instead of giving yourself a probability that you're going to die early by, having a heart attack from cocaine, instead, you're ruining 100% of your future by developing this crippling addiction. Anything you were going to achieve now will never happen. But it's not just this initial release of dopamine that is the problem. Have you ever wondered, for example, why we care so much more about someone's death than someone's birth? Why we care more about someone's funeral than we do about someone's wedding? Why the news focuses solely on famine, on war, on politics, and not stuff like charitable donations and like scientific advancements, for example? Back when we were cavemen, we never really cared what Jenny was doing in the cave next door. We cared about danger, lion, hunger, things that were going to stop us from living, and that allowed us to evolve and become who we are today. And as we've evolved, we've kept this bias towards dangerous things, and that has kind of broadened into all things negative, or the negativity bias. But now, instead of worrying about if that lion's gonna rip our head off, we worry about other people dying at war. We gravitate towards educating ourselves on other people's problems. And this is because our brains like to prepare for the worst that could possibly happen to us. It's like how you imagine all of those horrible scenarios while you're led in bed. For instance, our parents dying in a horrific car crash and then we're orphaned. Not great. We get upset thinking about these scenarios because our brains don't actually know the difference between something we're thinking about and something we're actually witnessing, something we're actually going through. Our brains react to everything like it's real. And that comes with its own set of benefits. It allows us to prepare for things that haven't actually happened. It makes us feel more secure when we take in all of this information. However, it also works in quite a counterintuitive way. My girlfriend is a great example of this, funnily enough. I would classify her as a doomsday prepper. Whenever she sees something on the news about something that could possibly affect her in the future, maybe a war, for example, she makes real-life preparations, like she goes and collects canned food and stuff like that. She'll go and seek out as much information on this potential scenario as physically possible, which, yes, does make her more informed, makes her feel more secure, but it also raises her anxiety, her uncertainty. It makes it even worse when you remember this double-sided coin of information gathering is completely compulsive. We want to go out and search for this information, and that's where these apps get their hold on you. Apps use and they manipulate these negative emotions so damn well. And when you introduce the final piece of the puzzle, it just almost makes it sad, to be completely honest. It's that fear of missing out, that FOMO. What if that next scroll, that next snippet of information that comes up, changes your life in a way you can't even imagine? What if it's so informative that your entire life changes and that you can't picture your life without it? You see this a lot in gambling, you know, you're one spin away from never having to work a day in your life again. And it works so damn well because it's playing on these natural impulses in your brain. You are quite literally being exploited for your body's own natural programming. And yes, it is sad. You are lonely. You are sat in a cycle of watching meaningless shit over and over again. But there is a way around it. So let's do that. Just stop doing it, you know? Just uninstall the apps. Set timers on your apps. It's a load of bollocks. This is an addiction. You need to treat it like an addiction in order to overcome the addiction. If you just stopped, for instance, all you're doing then is saying, oh, I've not done it for 7 days. You're creating a streak of how many days you've not done it. All that's doing is leaving time for you to eventually relapse, because you will relapse. Let's not take preventative action. Let's instead take that action and replace the habit instead of stopping it. This is something I've pulled straight from the book Atomic Habits, which you've definitely heard of before, and if you've not, you've been living under a rock, I'm afraid. James Clear outlined this habit loop as a 4-step process. So let's go through it very slowly. The cue, which for doom scrolling is more often than not one of 2 things. Let's say you're sat at home, it's your day off of school or work, and you've done everything you need to do for the day really, so what now? Guess I'll just scroll on TikTok. Or in other words, boredom. Or in a different scenario, it's 7 AM. You've just woken up and oh my God, you've got so much to do today. You've got to go to work and then there's the washing to do and oh, you've got to go shopping. You should really go and visit your family as well. You said you'd walk your mum's dog and you know what? I'll just watch some TikTok first. Or in other words, distraction. Short form content kind of exists to be an escape from everyday life, from reality. It's like putting your brain on autopilot. You know, nothing will have changed when you come back to reality, but that's not a you problem right now. So after being exposed to these cues, in comes the craving. The craving to not be bored or to be distracted. Your body chemically reacts in order to make you crave a change. And so naturally, you respond to that. You bring up your phone, you find your poison of choice, and you sit there wanting to get that dopamine reward. And that dopamine reward you receive for hours and hours and hours. The danger that I found with this habit loop in particular is that after you receive the dopamine reward and it loops back, because all habit loops do loop back, you kind of miss out the cue. You just go straight to the craving again because, well, why would you just stop scrolling? After a cigarette, for example, you've received your dopamine reward, you're not really bored again or needing to be distracted. You just go back to work or go back to speaking with your friends. We don't need another cue in order to keep scrolling. We skip straight to the craving because why would you want to leave that blissful state that you're in that autopilot mindset? Why would you not want that new next little snippet of information? Now, this is the 4-step method that you would use if you wanted to stay addicted to your phone. But in order to change your entire life, in order to break this bad habit and form a much more positive one, all you need to do is change one of these steps. But let's, before we get to that, start with the cue. We're going back from the top. The reason the cue isn't one of these steps is because, well, you can't change the cue. You are going to get bored. This is just something that happens, especially when you get older. Not everything in life is just this one big party. Imagine if everything you did was just super exciting. Everything was just this massive stimulus blowing your brain up with dopamine. Everything would just be the same. It would be one constant level of dopamine, and that one constant level would become your new normal. And then everything would be boring once again. So following the habit loop, you're now bored. You have a craving to go on your phone, to enter that autopilot mindset, to forget about being bored. Well, we can't change that craving right now. Unfortunately, that's just how your body is programmed. So, R1 becomes our response. What going on your phone did was stop you being bored. So in order to replace this response with one that worked, we need to find something that's going to stop you being bored. Write this down on a piece of paper. Go through this with me because it increases your chances that you will actually succeed at this by about 62%. Just take 1 second right now to think about one of your passions. It could be literally anything, and if you don't have a passion, well, that's fine, don't worry. Let's just analyze your behavior. Let's say, for example, you really like watching YouTube videos, which, I mean, if you're here, you probably do. Have you ever considered maybe trying to make a video before? What kind of content do you watch though? Do you watch like active content? Do you watch vloggers out doing hikes? Do you watch rock climbing? Do you watch bodybuilding? Do you watch makeup tutorials? It could literally be anything. Maybe doing that will be better than you actually watching that. Just write down 3 subcategories of content that you watch right now, and then think about if it's actually plausible for you to do some of those things yourself. Now stop thinking about whether you can actually do it or not, and just start doing it. Spoiler alert, you can literally do anything you want to do. Bonus points if it's something physical, because being physical also just raises your mood in general, which is a nice little bit to sprinkle on the end. For example, I started kickboxing just about a year ago at this point, and it was one of the best decisions that I made last year. It was something new. I'd never done anything like it before, and now I go every single week and I absolutely love it. Now the key with these responses is it has to be a small response. For instance, when you get bored, you're not gonna go, oh, you know what, I think I'll go on a 5K run. And for me, with kickboxing, I only have a class at certain times every week. I get bored multiple times a day. Now this is where I find that learning is an incredible alternative. Learn something new about this thing that you're interested in. It's something that I've spun into basically my entire life purpose and my entire purpose with this channel. Learning something new is easy and fun despite what school has taught you in the past. You'd be surprised how easy it is to, instead of load up TikTok and start doom scrolling, just load up a search engine and type in something about this thing you're interested in. Let's take, for example, kickboxing. How to pull off back kick. Everybody wants to pull off a back kick. How to do transitions on Premiere Pro. How to pull off a sick beat drop in Fruity Loops, for example. 5 steps you could do to improve your climbing ability. How to read faster. This could literally be anything. And if you're stuck for ideas, just type in habit tips. That's it. Now this is super powerful because not only are you going to be increasing your knowledge on this new habit you want to form, it's also going to play on your mind's natural curiosity. You're going to want to see if you can actually do it. You're going to practice that skill playing on these natural impulses that you have. It's all about fighting with your body, not trying to fight against it. You can manipulate things in a way that make you want to do things that are good for you. What makes this system work though is trying something new, learning a skill, progressing a skill. They all release dopamine, our reward, our number 2. It stays the exact same, it's just swapping out the response for something that's so much more fulfilling. And that links directly to number 3, our craving, which is kind of backwards, but it makes sense. That dopamine release will now be linked to this cue. i.e., if you repeat this cycle enough times, what's going to happen is that this craving will be replaced. You're not going to get a craving to go on your phone and doom scroll. you're gonna get a craving to progress that skill. It's no longer, I got bored, so I got a craving to go onto my phone and doom scroll to become not bored. What it becomes is, I got bored, so I got the craving to go and practice shadow boxing in my front room and become not bored. I'm really stressed today, so to distract myself, I had the craving to go to the gym, practice hitting a bag, and get better at my skill, which makes me feel happy and less stressed. You could replace these two with any of your specific examples. Trust me, this works for everything. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes because you don't have to fight against that craving. Your body will start to work with you, not against you. So the homework for this week, very, very, very simple. All you need to do, take this habit chart that you've drawn out and whack it in the document in the description. Super simple, literally a 2-minute job, and you putting that and submitting it to me will then allow me to respond to it, and then when I know, I'm holding you accountable, making you even more likely to succeed with this, to make this drastic change in your life and achieve that future that you dream of. And since you clearly want to be happy in your future, you should watch this video straight after as well. It also fits in great because you're going to be learning something new instead of wasting your time scrolling shorts after this, like, let's be honest, I know you were going to do. Let's keep learning, let's get motivated to change. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Goodbye.